Good morning. I am doing this YouTube video to share experiences and memories for my children. And I never thought I would be doing a video. That's the last thing that I thought I would ever be doing. But I have so many memories that I want to leave with my children and my grandchildren, and this just seems like a really easy way to do it. And so if I seem a little awkward or anything, just forgive me because I've never done anything like this in my life. But I just wanted to share with my children and any of my friends that want to know my legacy. Excuse me if I cry, because I feel so unworthy of God's love and the things that He's done in my own life. But as a little girl, all I've ever known is Jesus. My grandpa was a pastor, and all my whole life I've always heard about Jesus. I remember as a little child, I think I was probably around 4 years old when I guess my first memories of church and things like that. As a little girl, my grandpa had a church in Odessa, Texas. He actually planted 3 or 4 churches, and but the one that I was most familiar with was the one in Texas. And as a little girl, I remember he would invite everyone to come on the platform to sing and lead worship. And I remember just trooping right on up there as a little girl and being part of the worship team with half the congregation. And just those memories of my family and them talking about Jesus, like we would go from house to house, my aunt's house growing up as a little girl, and I just remember every conversation just about was centered around Jesus and the Lord and miracles and all the things that that Jesus did. They would share memories of when they were younger, and one particular one that just kind of stands out right now was I remember hearing as a little girl, and I never wanted to leave the room when they were talking about the Lord, because my heart was just, there's just something spiritual about us that even as a child, you can't separate that part of yourself from who God made us to be, that spiritual connection that we have, that we want to know about the supernatural. But I remember my aunts sharing about my great-grandma, about her dying, and about my grandpa praying for her. And, just from over the years hearing this story so many times, how my grandpa prayed, and my grandma was dead for, I think, over an hour. There was a Church of Christ nurse that was sitting by her bedside, and, from what my mother tells me, she was dead for over an hour. And my grandpa was praying, and the stories related, over the years was that my grandma in heaven, or my great-grandma up in heaven, literally heard my grandpa praying, and she didn't want to come back. But she was raised back from the dead and lived another 15 years. And so hearing those stories as a child created hunger, more hunger for the supernatural, more hunger for God. And so when I was 5 years old, I had this encounter, and that has forever marked my heart and changed me. And when you've been touched from the other side, the supernatural, we call it supernatural because it's not something that we always experience every day, although we should be very in tune to the Lord and the things He does around us. We're not, because we're just raised in a carnal, broken world. But as a little girl, around 5 years old, I was taken to heaven, and I remember walking through this beautiful, beautiful paradise looking place, and it probably, well, it could be paradise. Maybe paradise is on the outskirts of heaven. I'm not really sure. I don't really know a lot about, that. But I seen beautiful flowers, beautiful meadows, beautiful grass, everything just the most beautiful that you could even imagine. As a 5-year-old, I guess my worldly view was not expanded as it has now over the years. But I remember walking over this bridge, and then I just keep walking, and I keep walking, and as I walk, there's this beautiful mountain, there's a beautiful river flowing, there's flowers, every color, beautiful, just absolutely, just breathtakingly beautiful. And I keep walking, and as I'm walking, I see a man, and he's standing there in front of an easel. He's painting a picture. He's literally painting the picture that is in front of him of the mountain and the river and the flowing river and the grass and the flower. He's literally painting a picture. And I kind of walk up to him, and as I walk up to him, he turns and he looks at me, and our communication is not like I'm talking, right now, but it is through, like, I know what he's thinking. And I know, what he's telling me through just by, him looking. It's like, I don't really know the word for that, but it's communicated to me somehow. And he told me as a little girl that he loved me and that he was my friend. And that he would always be with me, that he would never leave me and he would never forsake me, but that he would always be with him, and basically that I could count on him in my life, and that he would always be with me. And I just, and when I saw him, I knew he was Jesus. I knew he was Jesus. I don't know how I knew, but when you see Jesus. And, I hear people that they've had, these encounters with the Lord, and how they just like fall like a dead man, or they're just so overwhelmed with, his glory and everything. But for as a child, my experience was a little bit different than that. I felt so comfortable with him. I felt so loved by him, so accepted by him. And I knew that what he told me was truth. Even as a little girl, I remember after that experience, his voice in my life. Many times, I remember being 9 years old one time, and I was the oldest child in my family. So I had, 2 little sisters and a little brother. And I always kind of felt like the mini mom. I was like a little mini mom. I wasn't their mom, but I felt a lot of responsibility for them. And I had this feeling of always wanting to protect them. I can't even explain it. Maybe all older siblings feel that way, but I only knew what I felt. But I remember one day I was standing in the living room of our home, and I remember hearing the voice of God at 9 years old. And the Lord told me, he said, I want you to be a good big sister. I want you to watch over your brother and your sisters. And I want you to be a good example to them, because they're watching everything you do. And he was serious. I knew he was serious. And I knew that truth in my heart when he spoke it to me. I knew that the words that he was speaking to me would impact not just my life, but their life for years to come. I can't explain how. As a young child, I knew that. But I remember feeling so protective over them from that moment on, even to a greater measure. And it doesn't mean I was perfect, because believe me, I wasn't perfect, and I was a bossy big sister. But I took that mandate, what I felt like was a mandate from God, so seriously for years. Still to this day, my heart for my sisters and my brother is so I can't even explain it. It's so deep of love. And my feeling of being responsible to be a good steward with my life, and to pray over my family, and to love them, and to be a good something they can look up to, and to try to model, and just to be a godly woman. Anyway, I'm trying not to cry, sorry. But anyway, I just wanted to share how that experience as a little girl, it's 5 years old, marked me so deeply. And then I remember, we went to a little church in Texas, and how I remember laying on the pew sometimes when, just in church, and how when the preacher was preaching, I would pick up the Bible sometimes, and I would just like fan through the Bible. You know how you do as a kid, you're just bored and you're just fanning through the Bible. But I remember a significant book of the Bible in Song of Solomon. The Song of Solomon, I would pick the Bible up a lot when I was a kid during church, and I would flip through the Song of Solomon, and I would just read little verses in there. And I remember even as a child thinking, this book, I want to understand it. Like, I know when I read about, I love my beloved, that there was more meaning to that than just, I love my beloved, So I'm going to share probably in another video, because I don't want to keep this too long. But just when I share later about what God did for me through that hunger to understand that book later in life, of how significant it was, and how God's hand was with me as a child, leading me and guiding me all my life, so that when I was older, I would recognize the importance of that book, and how that book played a part in my life as I got older. It will show you the little pebbles along your own life of how God's seasons in our life mark us forever, and the people in my life that marked me forever. And before I get off, I want to just share one other little dream that I had when I was 17 years old. Actually, I had so many dreams in my life that God, I didn't understand, and a lot of people don't understand the significance of dreams. And I know there's a lot of crazy dreams that we have that aren't necessarily significant, but I've had so many significant dreams. And another one was when I was a child, and my sister and I had this dream literally the same night. We didn't even know it until we woke up and we started sharing our dreams. But in my dream, I dreamed that I was at this huge conference, which as a child, I didn't even really know what a conference was, to be honest with you. I was like a little girl, probably 7 or 8 years old. But in this dream, I'm at a conference, a huge conference, and I'm playing the piano, and I'm singing at the top of my lungs, and I can play this piano, and I'm singing at this conference, and it's just like no big deal, And that same day when we woke up, my sister and I were sharing our dream, and I was like, Mom, I didn't even call it a conference because I didn't know it was a conference. But, we used to sit at the table every morning. We would share our dreams, and I said, Mom, I dreamed that I was singing and playing the piano at this big place, and there was all these people there. And Dina said, I had a dream like that too. I dreamed that I was preaching at this huge place, and all these people were in the audience. And my grandma from out of town, she was from Arizona, she happened to be there, and she was like, she didn't understand spiritual dreams that much, and she says, well, we can't just, like, basically she was trying to say, don't be self-important, don't be self-important. But, she just didn't understand. But years later, in my early 30s, well, even before then, I would get on the piano sometimes. And I actually wrote a song when I was young. I don't remember the song, but it was about creating me a clean heart, renewing a right spirit with me. And I'm sure the chords were not right or anything, but it was just a desire in my heart after that. But in my 30s, I'll never forget, I had a dream one night, and the Lord told me to go to this place and take piano lessons. And so I did. I went to this place. They offered piano lessons you learned by chord. It was like a 6-week thing. And I learned to slowly chord and begin to write songs. And, there were the songs that I've written have never been like, Amy Grant level or anything like that. I just call myself kind of a psalmist, kind of a worshiper of the Lord. But the thing is, it's about obedience and how those dreams and how those moments in my life that God touched me and He wrote on my heart, and it's changed my life, and it's made me just love Him so much more. And this is just the first memory I want to share. And I also want to share some other memories of, I'd like to get my mom and stepfather and some other people on here that have just been so significant in my life, and that have shared and have impacted my life. But I hope that this first video of my, first major encounter with the Lord, just speaks to your heart and makes you hungry for Him, because every single one of us have a hole in our heart for God. And if we don't fill it with Him, we will fill it with anything that will bring satisfaction. But the truth is that satisfaction will only last for a moment, and then it will go away. Because I know, because of my own life when I was young, because I did kind of like fall away from God. I just got kind of cold in the Lord for several years, and I was just hunting and hunting and hunting for that thing, and I would fill it with so many things. And so I pray that if nothing else, that my testimony this morning will cause you to be hunger for more of Him, and to ask God to show you, to show you Himself, to ask for an encounter with Him. I was raised in church, but church can only go so far. We have to have our own walk with God. We have to be able to know that He loves us, and we can talk with Him every day. Every day He wants to talk to us. And the one thing that I've learned about that is that He's talking to us all the time. And 90% of the time, we probably don't recognize it until something happens, and we were like, oh, that was the Lord. That's, just to be honest with you, I am 56 years old, and 90% of the time, when I know that was God, is like after the fact. After effect. It's like after the fact that it's happened, I'm like, oh, that was God. Sometimes I know. Like sometimes I know that I know that I know. But most of the time, it's because it happened, and I'm like, that was you, Lord. That was you, Lord. And I thank you so much, God, that you share your secrets with your children because you love us so much. I love y'all, and I pray this blesses your heart. Thank you.